Princess Leonor of Spain stands at 20 years old between two incompatible visions of monarchy. One demands she embody tradition, the other insists she represent change. The institution chose both, and now the weight of that contradiction rests entirely on her. Spain is not preparing an heir, it is staking its institutional future on whether one person can bridge a gap that decades of political reform could not. The monarchy's survival is no longer theoretical. It depends entirely on whether Leonor can convince a skeptical generation that hereditary power deserves to exist in modern Europe. Every decision about her education, her visibility, and her deployment has been calculated against a single question. Can she make the institution defensible to people who do not believe it should exist? This is not preparation. This is institutional desperation disguised as modernization. Leonor's position derives from an accident of constitutional history, rather than completed reform. She was born in 2005 as the first child of then Prince Felipe and Letizia Ortiz, a former television journalist whose entry into the royal family already signaled a break from aristocratic marriage conventions. Spain had debated gender-equal succession for decades, but the constitution was never amended. Male preference primogeniture formally remains in place. Leonor stands first in line, not because the monarchy resolved that contradiction, but because no male sibling was born. The institution chose avoidance over reform, leaving its future resting on circumstance rather than legal clarity. This unresolved contradiction matters because Leonor has become the functional test case for whether Spain can sustain a female sovereign in the 21st century without reopening the constitutional question it has repeatedly deferred. Her role exists in a space of political convenience rather than settled law. The monarchy presents her succession as inevitable, but its legitimacy depends on a condition that could have displaced her entirely under existing rules. What appears as institutional confidence is, in reality, a carefully managed gamble. Her grandfather, Juan Carlos I, had been installed as king to stabilize Spain's transition from dictatorship to democracy. That legacy ended in disgrace. Financial scandals, offshore accounts, and a hunting trip during Spain's economic crisis destroyed public trust. He abdicated in 2014 and later fled the country entirely. Her father, Felipe VI, ascended under that shadow, inheriting an institution that approval polling showed nearly half of Spaniards wanted abolished. The monarchy is not a given. It is tolerated conditionally, and those conditions tighten with each generation. Leonor's lineage connects her to every Spanish monarch since the Bourbon Restoration, but that genealogy provides no protection. It is a liability. The symbolic power she represents exists only as long as elected officials and public opinion allow it. She is Princess of Asturias, a title historically given to Spanish heirs. But the weight of that title now includes justifying why hereditary succession should survive in a parliamentary democracy. Spain does not simply want a queen. It needs Leonor to prove the monarchy is worth keeping, because without her success, the institution has no future argument for its own existence. The institutional forces shaping Leonor operate with precision because failure is not survivable. At 15, she was enrolled in UWC Atlantic College in Wales, a boarding school that markets itself as progressive and internationally minded. The decision was framed as giving her a normal adolescence. In reality, it was a calculated move to insulate her from Spanish political volatility during a period when separatist tensions in Catalonia were escalating. Anti-monarchy sentiment was intensifying among younger voters, and her grandfather's scandals were still dominating headlines. She studied the International Baccalaureate. She lived in shared dormitories. She was photographed in casual clothing, doing ordinary student activities. The message was deliberate. Leonor is not like past royals. She is relatable, modern, educated, outside the palace system. But every element of that experience was curated to produce a specific public perception. Her security detail remained present. Her public statements were vetted. Her social life was monitored. The school provided the aesthetic of normalcy without the reality of privacy or autonomy, because the monarchy cannot afford an uncontrolled narrative. When she returned to Spain, the institutional shaping intensified. At 18, she began a 3-year military training program across all branches of the Spanish armed forces. This is presented as tradition, Spanish heirs complete military service, but the timing and emphasis reveal dependency. The military remains one of Spain's most trusted institutions, consistently ranking higher in public confidence than the monarchy itself. Associating Leonor with it is a strategic effort to transfer that credibility to an institution that has lost its own. She is being visually and symbolically fused with national defense, duty, and sacrifice, concepts that poll well even among demographics skeptical of royalty. Simultaneously, she is being deployed in political optics designed to neutralize specific lines of criticism. She delivers speeches on gender equality to counter accusations that monarchy is inherently patriarchal. She attends climate summits to signal alignment with younger voters' priorities. She is photographed meeting with entrepreneurs and activists to demonstrate engagement with issues beyond ceremonial duty. These appearances are not spontaneous. They are responses to polling data and focus group findings about what makes the monarchy defensible to its harshest critics. The tension is structural. She can attend a formal state ceremony in the morning, wearing the sash and insignia of her royal orders, and by afternoon be seated at a university roundtable discussing democratic participation. She oscillates between the roles that communicate entirely different messages about what she represents, because the institution cannot decide which audience it needs more desperately. The palace insists this is modernization. What it actually reveals is that Spain needs her to be everything to everyone, because the coalition supporting the monarchy is too fragile to risk alienating any faction. She cannot win. If she leans into tradition, she alienates younger Spaniards who view hereditary titles as outdated. If she embraces progressivism too openly, she risks appearing hypocritical as someone whose authority derives entirely from birthright. If she remains silent, she is accused of being irrelevant. If she speaks, her words are analyzed for political missteps that could trigger constitutional crises. Her father's reign has been defined by crisis management. Her grandfather abdicated in disgrace. Her position is framed as a fresh start, but that narrative depends on her succeeding where 2 generations failed. She inherits not just a title, but the accumulated institutional failures that brought the monarchy to the edge of abolition. The resistance is structural. The Spanish government needs her to legitimize the institution to skeptical citizens. The royal household needs her to preserve tradition. Regional separatist movements in Catalonia and the Basque Country reject the legitimacy of Spanish national symbols entirely, and the monarchy is the most visible of those symbols. Republican political parties openly advocate for constitutional referendums to abolish her role, and she is expected to navigate all of this while still being a teenager whose life is entirely controlled by the same institutions that depend on her success. Spain needs her to succeed because it has structured the monarchy as though her success were the only credible path forward. While constitutional successors technically exist, none carry her symbolic weight, generational appeal, or institutional investment. The monarchy has no viable narrative beyond her, no alternative figure capable of repairing public trust or stabilizing legitimacy if she falters. In practice, the institution has concentrated its future on a single individual. What has been lost is any possibility that the monarchy could survive on its own institutional merit, rather than the performance of a single person. Spain has outsourced the entire legitimacy question to Leonor. If she succeeds, the institution persists. If she fails, there is no backup strategy. This dependency has transformed her from heir into infrastructure. She is not preparing to inherit power. She is the mechanism through which the institution attempts to justify its continued existence. Every speech, every appearance, every carefully managed image serves that singular purpose. The consequence is not that she will fail. The consequence is that Spain has made its monarchy's survival contingent on variables it cannot control. Her likability, her competence, her ability to navigate political landmines without making mistakes. The institution has no plan if she stumbles. It has no alternative if public opinion turns against her personally. She cannot choose to step back. She cannot redirect her life. The constitutional ambiguity that secured her place in the line of succession also locked the institution's future to her performance. Spain has not transferred power to Leonor. It has transferred dependency onto her. By deferring reform and consolidating legitimacy around her image, the monarchy eliminated alternative strategies for survival. What remains is a system that can persist only as long as she continues to succeed. Power has not been transferred to Leonor. It has been made dependent on her. The Spanish monarchy now operates on a model where institutional survival requires one person to continuously prove the institution deserves to exist. This is not sustainable, but it is the only model Spain has left. The quiet redistribution is already complete. Political authority remains with elected officials. Constitutional power remains with Parliament. The monarchy retains only symbolic weight, and even that exists conditionally. Leonor will inherit a throne that holds no governing authority, but carries total responsibility for institutional legitimacy. Spain is shaping its next queen by ensuring she understands that her success is not optional. The monarchy's future is not a question of tradition or lineage. It is a question of whether she, personally, can make enough people believe the institution is worth preserving. If she succeeds, she will reign for decades as proof that hereditary monarchy can adapt to democratic values. If she fails, she will be remembered as the last monarch of a dynasty that reformed itself into irrelevance and then placed all its remaining credibility on someone too young to refuse the burden. Either way, Spain has made its choice. The monarchy's survival depends entirely on Princess Leonor, and she was never given the option to decline.